live in interesting times. Today's stories. Venezuelan opposition attends a session in Colombia's Congress. Honduras president says accusations of million-dollar bribes are, quote, absurd. Indigenous Bolivians march to protect their habitat from wildfires. As Libya's war drags on, Tripoli drowns in waste. The ocean cleanup ship sweeps its first Pacific plastic. In a Syria camp, uncertain future for foreign ISIS orphans. President Trump says Schiff, quote, probably helped write the whistleblower complaint.
I think he probably helped write it.
Plus, Heroes and Angels reaches out to families affected by child cancer in Sherwood, Arkansas. This is Eagle News coming to you from Las Vegas, bringing you stories from around the globe. I'm Anna Cui. During a session in Colombia's Congress, Venezuelan opposition deputies said President Nicolas Maduro is not just a, quote, threat on a national scale, but on a global level, and demanded for Venezuelan migrants in Colombia to be considered refugees.
La primera, no puedo dejar de recordar que Maduro no es una amenaza para los venezolanos, no es una amenaza para los latinoamericanos, es una amenaza global de todo el mundo. Por tanto,
los nuestros salen por el derecho a la vida y esa condición entonces tiene que ser en este momento ya denominada y tenemos nosotros que hacer un esfuerzo para eso, para que entonces sean denominados como refugiados.
Aquí la conclusión es, por supuesto, recibir a nuestros hermanos venezolanos en Colombia de pleno derecho como ciudadanos colombianos, apostarle a la pronta restauración de la democracia.
Honduran President Juan Orlando Hernandez dismissed accusations from a U.S. prosecutor as, quote, absurd on Twitter after the leader was pointed at for receiving millions of dollars in bribes from drug lords, including jailed Mexican kingpin Joaquin El Chapo Guzman. A U.S. prosecutor said Wednesday at the opening of Honduran President Juan Orlando Hernandez's brother's trial that he took millions of dollars in bribes from drug lords, including jailed Mexican kingpin Joaquin El Chapo Guzman. The president's brother, Juan Antonio Hernandez, a former Honduran congressman also known as Tony, was arrested at a Miami airport in November 2018 for conspiring to import cocaine into the United States, for weapons offenses, and making false statements. Prosecutor Jason Richmond said, quote, the defendant was protected by the current president, who has received millions of dollars in bribes from drug traffickers like El Chapo Guzman, who personally delivered $1 million to the defendant for his brother. President Hernandez dismissed the accusation as, quote, absurd. He wrote on Twitter, quote, it is 100% false, absurd, and ridiculous. This is less serious than Alice in Wonderland. Richmond said that Tony Hernandez belonged to, quote, a state-sponsored organization that distributed cocaine for years in the U.S. with the goal of making millions of dollars, adding that corrupt mayors, congressmen, military generals, and police chiefs protected his organization. The charges run to 4 counts. If convicted, he faces from 5 years to life in prison. The U.S. government alleges that Hernandez, who served as a member of the Honduran Congress from 2014 to 2018, worked from 2004 to 2016 with others in Colombia, Honduras, and Mexico to import cocaine into the U.S. via plane, boat, and submarine. The prosecution also says Hernandez was involved in at least 2 murders of rival drug traffickers in 2011 and 2013. According to U.S. Attorney Jeffrey Berman, some of the cocaine he was transporting was labeled with his initials TH. Defense attorney Omar Malone said Hernandez was the target of violent criminals because his brother's administration authorized the extradition of drug traffickers to the U.S. He also referenced the cordial relationship between Honduras and the U.S., which saw the country's president shake hands with his U.S. counterpart Donald Trump at the United Nations General Assembly in New York. Malone said the president of Honduras has interacted with the United States like any other president of any other country. Indigenous peoples marched towards Bolivia's Santa Cruz to demand government action against wildfires hitting the country. Environmental experts said Wednesday more than 2 million wild animals, including jaguars, pumas, and llamas, have perished in weeks of wildfires that devastated huge swaths of Bolivian forest and grassland. The fires devastated the Chiquitania tropical savanna in the east of the country. Professor Sandra Quiroga of Santa Cruz University said, quote, "We have consulted a biologist of Chiquitania and we have exceeded the estimate of more than 2.3 million missing animals in many protected areas." According to biologists investigating the scale of the damage, Latin American ocelots and other wildcats like pumas and jaguars, as well as deer, llamas, and smaller forest animals like anteaters, badgers, lizards, tapirs, and rodents were victims of the fires. Local media showed images of charred animal carcasses in the smoldering forest and birds fleeing to zones spared by the flames. The fires, which have devastated more than 4 million hectares or 10 million acres since August, has completely destroyed the primary forest extending over 100 hectares in the Tucavaca Reserve in the eastern Santa Cruz department. Quiroga said, quote, "The forest is totally charred and the damage is irreversible. It will never get back to normal." The eastern department of Santa Cruz has been the hardest hit of Bolivia's 9 departments since the fires began in May and intensified in late August. Bolivia in August enlisted special firefighting planes, a supertanker Boeing 747, and a Russian Ilyushin, as well as helicopters, 5,000 firefighters, soldiers, and police, but the fires have still not been extinguished. Environmentalists blame laws enacted under leftist President Evo Morales, who has encouraged burning of forest and pasture land to expand agricultural production. The government attributes the blazes to dry weather and flame-fanning winds. The rubbish crisis adds to the daily ordeal for residents of Tripoli, whose life is already punctuated by shortages of fuel, electricity, and water.
طبعا هي مشكلة قديمة فعلا، ولكن في السنوات الأخيرة زادت عن حدها وخاصة في هذه الأيام. توجد عدة أسباب طبعا لتفاقم هذه المشكلة. السبب الأول هو الوعي البيئي، الوعي لدى المواطن بصفة شخصية، وبعدين مؤسسات الدولة أيضا. الوضع اللي فيه البلد وضع يعني للأسف الحروب هي السبب الرئيسي.
القمامة طبعا يوميا هذه المشكلة نعاني منها في طرابلس، وطبعا المشكلة هذه حطت لها الأسباب وكيف زادت في مدينة طرابلس مشكلة القمامة وتفاقمها نتيجة ازدياد عدد السكان وازدياد النازحين من مناطق أخرى، وتبات في أن هي بعض الوعي، النقص الوعي اللي هي وعدم اللي هو استدراك بعض الجهات اللي هو المسؤولة لرفع القمامة بشكل صحيح. بالتالي هنا يتسبب لي كوارث بازدحام القمامة هذه وتراكمها في المنطقة بشكل أكثر. هذا بيوفر بيئة مناسبة للنواقل الحشرية والنواقل الأمراض.
Up next, the ocean cleanup ship sweeps its first Pacific plastic. In a Syria camp, uncertain future for foreign ISIS orphans. President Trump says Schiff, quote, probably helped write the whistleblower complaint. Eagle News will be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. This is Eagle News coming to you from Las Vegas. Its Dutch inventors said Wednesday a special ship designed to clean the oceans has harvested its first plastic from the Great Pacific Garbage Patch since setting sail from San Francisco last month. The project by the Ocean Cleanup, a Dutch nonprofit group, involves a supply ship towing a floating boom that corrals marine plastic with the aim of cleaning half of the infamous patch within 5 years.
Today we announced that our cleanup system in the Great Pacific Garbage Patch has been catching plastic for the first time. And it's the first time actually anyone harvests plastic from the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, from these giant abundant fishing nets all the way down to the microplastic range. So we think we can actually clean the oceans. During this summer, we have adjusted the system by having a parachute anchor that slows down the system so that there is a consistent difference in speed between the plastic and the system, so that the plastic can actually float into the system, purely driven by the natural forces of the ocean. The goal is to clean up half the Great Pacific Garbage Patch in 5 years, once we're ready to scale. And this would constitute to roughly 15,000 metric tons of plastic per year.
Slat came up with the idea 7 years ago, drawing it on a paper napkin when he was still in high school. It seeks to use ocean currents to gather up some of the bottles, plastic bags, flip-flops, and other detritus that sully the planet's waters. The system has been undergoing tests for the past year. The Maersk launcher ship finally sailed from San Francisco on September 9 for trials on cleaning the patch, a floating trash pile twice the size of France that swirls in the ocean halfway between California and Hawaii. It was towing a 2,000-foot-long boom device designed by Slat, dubbed System 001, aimed at containing floating ocean plastic so it can be scooped up and recycled. The system includes a tapered 3-meter skirt to catch plastic floating just below the surface. Slat said that before the plastic was, quote, still escaping the system by riding over the top of the boom. He said, quote, and that's now what we've been able to resolve by having what you call a cork line, so a sort of a large barrier that's floating on the surface, which prevents plastic from actually leaving the system again. I think I have to be happy. Today is a big day. Eventually, Slat has said he wants to create a far bigger 60-mile-long V-shaped barrier made up of large rubber pillow-shaped buoys. The youngest ever winner of the Champion of the Earth Award, the UN's highest environmental honor, Slat gave up his studies in aeronautical engineering to pursue his project. Meanwhile, in Syria, displaced Syrian women volunteer as caretakers for orphans of foreign Islamic State or ISIS group fighters, saying the children are still visibly scarred after living with their late parents under ISIS at an Ain Issa camp in Syria's northwestern Raqqa province.
أكل نفسه ما يعجبهم إنه على اللعب تحس مزروع لسه إنه على طريقة لعبهم شلون لعبهم شلون يلعبون بالبوارد شلون يطقون على بعض شلون يلغمون قد جوا بعض هالشي لساته مزروع براسهم لسه ما جاي شيء ينسيهم إياه ما بشي يخليهم ينسون هالشي هذا إنه ما جاي لا يدرسون لا إنه يروحون يلعبون مع هالصغار هالشغلات هاي كلها زاد محرومين منها.
يحكوا لي عن أسرتهم عن عائلتهم وقت قتلت أصعب مواقف وقت يحكوا لي عن أبوهم وأمهم وقت قتلوا شلون شافوهم قدامهم شلون فقدوا أخواتهم قتلوا قدامهم.
ISIS overran large parts of Syria and neighboring Iraq in 2014, declaring a caliphate and imposing their brutal interpretation of Islam on millions. US-backed Syrian fighters in March expelled them from their last patch of territory in the eastern Syrian village of Baghouz. After years of leading the fight against the jihadists, Syria's Kurds hold thousands of suspected foreign ISIS members in detention in camps, men and women, but also some 8,000 children, more than half of whom are under the age of 5. The United Nations says hundreds of them are unaccompanied. The 24 orphans in Ain Isa were among the tens of thousands of people to stream out of Baghouz in the last weeks of the battle, after months of food shortages and heavy bombardment. The Kurdish authorities in northeast Syria have repeatedly called for the foreigners they hold to be repatriated, a request that has largely been met with resistance, except in rare cases, including several orphans. U.S. President Donald Trump responded to a report that Adam Schiff received an early account of the whistleblower complaint, saying that the Democratic chair of the House Intelligence Committee, quote, probably helped write it. Speaking at a White House news conference with Finland's President Sauli Niinisto, Trump continues to call the impeachment inquiry, quote, a hoax, insisting his call with Ukraine's leader was perfect.
Well, I think it's a scandal that he knew before. I go a step further. I think he probably helped write it. Okay? That's what the word is. And I think it's, I give a lot of respect for the New York Times for putting it out. Well, I always cooperate. This is a hoax. This is the greatest hoax. This is just a continuation of what's been playing out, John, for the last, since my election, I would say, if you want to. Probably, we'll find out soon, but probably even before my election. This is a fraudulent crime on the American people, but we'll work together with Shifty Shift and Pelosi and all of them.
Do you consider anyone who opposes you treasonous?
No, I consider when they lie, when they stand before our great body in our great chamber, and they make up a story that's fiction, like Schiff did. He took that perfect conversation I had with the Ukrainian president, and he made it into a total lie. It was a total fabrication. And you do admit that. It was a total fabrication. He's lying about the President of the United States and as to what the President says. You know, I believe it or not, I watch my words very carefully. There are those that think I'm a very stable genius, okay? I watch my words very, very closely. And to have somebody get up and to totally fabricate a conversation that I had with another leader and make it sound so bad, it was so evil. Ukraine, we want to help them. And I do like the new president. You know why I like him? Because he was honest. Because he said there was no pressure at all exerted on me, meaning him, by the President of the United States. He said it. By the way, that one sentence should stop this. But he said there was no pressure exerted. But you don't have to ask him. All you have to do is read the transcript, read the telephone call. What I was having a problem with are two things. Number one, Ukraine is known before him for tremendous corruption. Tremendous. More than just about any country in the world. In fact, they're rated one of the most corrupt countries in the world. And I don't like giving money to a country that's that corrupt.
President Donald Trump's rhetorical fireworks have steadily escalated since Democrats launched an impeachment investigation against him, reaching new heights with his latest charge that it amounts to a coup. He has continued to refer to the inquiry as a Democrat scam. Trump has repeatedly attacked House Intelligence Committee Chairman Adam Schiff, the lead congressional investigator overseeing the impeachment inquiry. But on September 30, he took it to a new level in his tweet, quote, Representative Adam Schiff illegally made up a fake and terrible statement, pretended it to be mine as the most important part of my call to the Ukrainian president, and read it aloud to Congress and the American people. Arrest for treason? When we come back, Heroes and Angels reaches out to families affected by child cancer in Sherwood, Arkansas. Eagle News will return shortly. You're watching Eagle News, coming to you from Las Vegas. I'm Anna Kui. In Sherwood, Arkansas, the Heroes and Angels organization reaches out to families affected by child cancer through a Comic-Con event. Eagle News correspondent Don Omar Cuevas with the details. Take a look.
Here at the Sherwood Forest Community Event Center, superheroes and comic book characters have gathered here for a noble cause.
Based on the notion that children deserve the chance to grow old, the Heroes and Angels organization helps families affected by childhood cancer through fundraising events, such as the Heroes and Angels Comic-Con. Co-founder Brandy Bullock, a mother of a cancer survivor herself, helped organize the event.
The mission of Heroes and Angels is to provide assistance to families that have been affected by childhood cancer with non-medical needs like gas, rent, groceries, anything like that. We also provide assistance to military families in need. We have people come out. The admission, all the proceeds, everyone that is here volunteers, even our guests. So any money that is donated at some of our tables goes directly to our mission. And then a lot of our vendors are also set up to where they are going to give us a portion of their proceeds.
I'm a freelance artist. I do a lot of pinup illustrations, I do trading cards, I do merchandising, and I work in comics as well, mostly on independent titles.
How does it feel knowing that your participation in this event is helping to fight cancer?
Oh, it's fantastic. Actually, in this one, which is helping kids with cancer, and I actually did some covers for Transformers. That if you look over down here, those covers were actually done for that charity as a variant cover to sell for raising money.
So what do you enjoy the most about this event?
The positivity and seeing everyone come together, watching our heroes' faces when they get to meet some of their favorite superheroes or characters. We've got princesses, and just watching them interact is amazing.
Reporting from Sherwood, Arkansas, I'm Don Omar Cuevas, and I am 1 with 25.
Thank you, Don Omar. That is today's Eagle News. Join us again tomorrow for the weekend edition. Visit our websites at eaglenews.net and eaglenewslive.com. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/eaglenews and on Facebook at facebook.com/eaglenews. Thank you for watching. I'm Anna Kui, and I am 1 with 25.